for me, it felt like the greatest gift one could ever give, to be able to have the ability to make these decisions to help the Jewish world, to help Israel emergencies, but also just help sustain all of our core organizations that need to be sustained. If everything turns to an emergency, then what is there when the emergency is done?
Welcome to Jewish, where everyone belongs. If you like this episode, and I'm pretty confident you're going to like it, be sure to like and subscribe, follow Jewish Federation of Northern New Jersey, sign up for Jewish. Today, we have some very special guests. Probably two of the most influential and impactful philanthropists, not just in New Jersey, but around the world. We have legendary investor Leon Cooperman. We have Leon's daughter-in-law, Jodi Cooperman, who is one of, if not the most caring, kind, gentle people, who is responsible for a significant amount of philanthropy coming into the Jewish world for a long time to come. We're going to dive in deep, but for those who are less familiar with Lee's background, and I hope you don't mind me calling you Lee, I will. Lee is the founder of Goldman Sachs Asset Management, GSAM. He left GSAM in 1992 to found Omega, a hedge fund, and currently runs his family office. I think, and Lee doesn't like me sharing his net worth, but Forbes has it out there. Forbes estimates his net worth at $3.6 billion. I share that number because 15 years ago, and I know Lee will correct me if I'm wrong here, 15 years ago or so, Lee and Lee's wife, Toby, signed the Giving Pledge to give away all of their money. And they have signed the Jewish Giving Pledge to give half of the $3.6 billion to Jewish organizations. And Jodi is, alongside with her daughters, responsible for helping give that money away. And we have a lot to talk about today. I do want to say Lee has been a friend, a partner, an investor, a mentor to me for 20 plus years now. I know that's hard to believe, but we're 20 years in. It's been the honor of my lifetime to be able to work for Lee, with Lee, to learn from Lee. And I'm excited for you all to learn more and hear more from Lee, from Jodi. So let's get into it. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
It's great to have you both here. And Lee, I think we'll start with you, because I think people first and foremost love to hear your views on investing. And I think our group will really enjoy hearing kind of how you think about investing.
Well, I've
philosophically.
made my money being a long investor principally over the years. But I say give away your money now while you have it, because I think the outlook for the market is very unattractive. And I start with evaluation. The market is a 98th percentile evaluation, which means in the last 100 years, the market has only been more expensive than it is now 2 years out of 100. And when I look at the world situation, whether it's the Middle East, whether it's our crazy president, who, by the way, I say he's crazy, he's doing the right things, he's just doing it the wrong way, in my opinion. And the country's heavy division. I think I'm a centrist by nature. I think the radical left and the radical right are screwing up the country. So I don't think it's a good investment environment.
Now, you say that, and I've heard you say that before when we've spoken, but you're still, I think, pretty heavily invested.
I'm less invested now than I used to be, but I have a couple of special situations. I have 20% of my money with a guy that's been delivering me 14% per annum. in fixed income, and I have a 20% position in something called Legato, networks. It's a very interesting case. It's a sign of the bad behavior of the U.S. government. The company had the spectrum for 10 years, 40 megahertz of 5G spectrum, and then 7 years ago, the Department of Defense falsely alleged a spectrum interference problem. It's been delayed, and I think things are turning around now.
And that's a high return potential. So that's kind of, when you think about investing, that's a little bit of a bell bar approach.
Well, I'm basically very bottom-up oriented. I look at the fundamentals of the companies I'm involved in. If it makes sense, I don't worry much about the market.
So I've seen some people, just stepping back to like the highest level, some people say they look at the numbers, they go deep on the numbers. Some people I've heard say they spend years thinking about and studying the CEO of companies. Like, when you think about investing in a company, are you focused primarily on the financial outlook for that specific business, for the industry? Are you looking at the executive management team, alignment of incentives, all of the above?
All of the above.
Yeah.
Basically, every investment has its own specific nuance. My biggest investment over the years has been Teledyne. Dr. Henry Singleton was a brilliant asset manager, and it was a conglomerate, but he called every major turn correctly. So you got to be very flexible.
And we're in the world of Elon Musk these days, it seems.
Well, he's obviously a genius, but he's too unconventional for me. I'm more conventional.
It seems to me, I'm interested in your view on this, that Elon possesses three pieces which are highly unusual. One, his intellect level. Two, his ability to work and his capacity to work. And three, his salesmanship skills to be able to promote himself. Jodi, you're nodding. Do you think?
Yeah, I'm also thinking he's a risk taker. I mean, that's just another piece of,
he's very well paid for what he does.
He's well paid.
Yeah, I think he's going to create a democratic landslide. The country is getting very fed up with the income disparity between those that have it and those that don't. And I'm sympathetic to that view.
Yeah, and that may be a good segue into philanthropy, in that, it's a very interesting thing to be giving away all of your money. So, and I really like the point that you make, give it away before you lose it. And it scares me every time you say that, because I'm invested and I'd like to not lose my money. I like giving it away, but I'm still young at 49.
You're an accumulator. I'm a disaccumulator. Yeah. I'm 83 years old. I've been diagnosed with Parkinson's. I had a stroke. I'm blind in my left eye. I had 2 stents put in. I've learned 2 things in the last year. Those who basically call this your golden years didn't know crap about what they were talking about. And getting old is not for sissies.
Yeah.
So Jodi's helped me out. She does a great job. I gave her lots of money to give away to Israeli causes. And she does the work that I was not doing. She flew over to Israel, visited all these organizations that we decided to support at her recommendation. And her and her 2 daughters have done a great job.
So let's talk about this. So, Jodi, your background. I mean, you got into the equation in 1995. Is that right?
Well, I became a Cooperman in 1995.
Yeah.
In that sense of getting into the equation. Yes.
Yeah. And so you started in 1995 as a Cooperman.
I did, but being raised in my family, my Holtz family, that's where I really learned.
Where did you grow up?
Long Island.
You grew up in Long Island?
Yeah. And my parents they didn't have the wealth that the Cooperman family has, but they had the values. They were really involved in UJA. They helped build our temple. And I learned by what they did with their lives. So it was part of who I was, long before I had the fortunate opportunity to become Wayne's wife and be part of the Cooperman family.
That's incredible.
I've said this before, but in the world of daughter-in-laws, this is a 12, a scale of 10.
Thank
can
you.
have a better daughter.
I mean, what a blessing to be able to have the relationship the two of you have. And I know you say that,
Oh,
and
I
it
say
has
that with
to
great
feel,
sincerity, great sincerity.
yeah. You have such a beautiful family, and you have such a
Yes.
beautiful family, Jodi. It's, I think Lee and I have worked together for 20 years, similarly with your husband,
Right.
Wayne, who's a wonderful person as well, and I know appreciates everything you do. So you had that upbringing of connectivity to the Jewish Federation, to the synagogues.
Absolutely.
And when did you go to Israel first?
The first time I went, I was in college.
Yeah.
Well, I just went on my own, but my involvement with the Jewish philanthropy more locally, really, a lot of it started with my involvement at B'nai Jeshurun. When we moved to New Jersey, I got really involved, starting right away in 2002, and that connected me to a lot of what's going on in the Jewish world. I was on the board. I was president of our sisterhood. But when Toby and Lee started a family foundation at the Federation, Greater Metro West, the Cooperman Fund for a Jewish Future, that's actually really where I learned a lot about the whole structure of like local philanthropy. And I kind of feel like that was my training wheels to do what I'm doing now. I'm still doing that and have moved that to sort of a new model. That's amazing. It's amazing to see the impact and that's all local. That all stays. It's all for programs in Greater Metro West, but it really helped me learn how to do what I'm doing now.
So, I mean, it's super interesting because I think a lot of people sometimes say, well, what does Federation do? And I know as chair that has been like something we've worked to really decipher is the fact that we have very impactful programs, whether it's the food pantry, which I know you're deeply involved with.
Not through Federation, though.
Not through Federation,
no.
but still very important.
Yeah.
I mean, this is one of the great pieces, though, and I think one of the great things about being Jewish is our work not just in the Jewish community, but also outside of the Jewish community, which we can get to. But so whether it's Jewish Family Services, whether it's combating anti-Semitism, and you get to see all of those different pieces.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they started this amazing fund, the Fund for a Jewish Future, that really was to focus on helping raise Jewish families. So focus on camp and birthright, and then we added Tikkun Olam programs for teens because our kids were post deciding what camp, and they were far from birthright. And I said, we don't want to miss this whole middle, and we added the teens. And then in 2020, we did a community study, and the numbers for how many Jewish families were involved in Jewish ECCs, early childhood programs, was really low compared to what I expected. And so we added that as another element of sort of the life cycle of a Jewish family. And then we also added welcoming and inclusion so that we're bringing in the young families coming into the community, interfaith families, LGBTQ families, and really kind of having a wider spectrum of how we're approaching the fund.
That's awesome, and we've tried to really similarly up here in North Jersey, what we say is widen the tent. And so on the first anniversary of October 7th, we literally had the biggest tent one can imagine. We had 4,000 or 5,000 people. You may have heard this.
We had the same in Metro West.
And that's unique relative to the rest of the country and the rest of the world. I think New Jersey has the second largest Jewish population outside of Israel. Is New York, New Jersey, and it's pretty remarkable. But what it highlighted to me is, bringing in all different parts of the community under one tent.
Yeah. It doesn't, all the different denominations, everybody together. I mean, that moment of everybody being together was tremendous. It's unfortunate that it was because of something so horrific, but to see the unity during that time was, be great to continue that.
So since we're on this kind of thread, like in early childhood development, the teen engagement, then birthright, your daughters are brilliant, and they are deeply involved in this effort as well. Before we talk about their involvement with the two of you, I'm interested in kind of your perspective on their journey. And now, for those listening, they're in their 20s, and so it's a very interesting age, I think, and a lot of people will resonate with that age. How is their journey?
I'm not going to do their whole journey, but I am going to start with when they were really little, because I think as a family we focused a lot on good values, and both of my kids really didn't realize that they were being raised in a family that had the wealth that the family has, because that's not what our values are. And from the time they were really little, when Hanukkah came, before they got a gift, they had to pick something each night. They would pick something of their own to give away rather than just getting something new. And that was from the time they were really little. And one time, one of them took like a tiny little rubber ball, and I said, no, something more meaningful. And when people ask, how did you raise such grounded kids? What did you have them do? And it's not really what you have them do. It's what you do as a family and how you model. And
There's an old expression, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Yeah.
And I think essentially our kids, my kids, their kids, my grandchildren have learned the benefits of sharing what you have for success with others. My oldest granddaughter wrote a poem called 7 Miles or 8 Miles?
7 miles.
7 Miles. And it was basically contrasting the difference between Short Hills, New Jersey and Newark, New Jersey, which is 7 miles apart. And she's very sensitive to that kind of stuff.
And that was because we volunteered with Bridges Outreach. Yes. So at a really young age, they were able to see, so close to home.
What is Bridges Outreach?
Bridges Outreach does support for homeless people suffering with homelessness. And so you make lunches and you distribute lunches. Now that they were able to do that when they were really young. A lot of the rules have changed to being 14, but my kids got to experience hands-on, like really, really hands-on. And we drove home. It was Irvington. We drove home, and she's looking out the window and just seeing the change from Irvington to Maplewood to Milburn to Short Hills, and saying, commenting as we went. And then she wrote a poem. We'll have to give you a copy of her poetry book. I should have brought one.
And I've heard about her poetry for a long time. And I know in Newark, you have had a significant impact on hundreds of children being educated.
We sent, it's called Cooperman College Scholars. We sent 1,000 kids to school. And when I gave them the original $25 million, there was about 35% of Newark high school kids went to college, but only 3% graduated, 5% graduated. I told them I worked too hard for this money for that kind of graduation rate. So 7 years later, our first cohort graduated at 73% graduation rate, which is very gratifying. My wife and I'm going to tear up on this. We were walking to a Walgreens, and I happened to be wearing a badge. So I was coming from a meeting in Newark, and a black young lady who was behind the counter said, "Are you the Cooperman from Cooperman College Scholars?" I said, "Yes." She says, "Well, because of you, I got a college degree, and I'm going to go to pharmacy school next year." And my wife teared up and started crying.
Yeah.
But let me just say this, when I started my career, I wouldn't even know how to spell the word philanthropist, let alone be called a philanthropist. I figured out many years ago there's only 4 things you can do with money. First thing you can do with money is you can spend it on yourself. And, I'm not a sports enthusiast. I'm not an art collector. I don't like material possessions. It brings with it aggravation. So we're less is more. We don't deny ourselves anything. We get anything we want. But we basically don't engage in conspicuous consumption. I drove a Hyundai here, and in my country club, there are a lot of people with Mercedes, Benz, and Rolls Royces. There's nothing wrong with Mercedes, Benz, and Rolls Royces, but I don't have to. I'd rather have more money to give away. The second thing you can do is give your money to kids. But if you have a lot of money, giving away your money to your children is a mistake, because you deprive them of self-achievement. I have 2 boys that are very achieved. Her husband is my oldest son, Wayne. He has a bachelor's degree from Stanford, Phi Beta Kappa, and he graduated from Wharton with honors. And Michael, his brother, has a PhD degree from Oregon State University, master's from University of Montana, and bachelor's from Tufts. They're good kids. They have good values.
So you can give your money away, or you can spend your money. You can give it to your kids. Number 3
is give it to the government, but only a fool gives the government money. You don't have to, volunteer. And 4th is recycle the money back into society and try to make the world a better place. That's what we've chosen to pick the 4th area. That's when I was working and I had excess earnings. I think we set up a family foundation in 1965.
1965?
Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe I started my career, no, maybe it was 1975, 1985.
So, and you started at Goldman Sachs and...
Yeah, well, I got my undergraduate degree in January 31st, got my MBA January 31st of 67. I started my 25-year career with Goldman February 1st the next day.
Yeah.
I didn't let grass grow under my feet. And I finished up at the end of 91 with Goldman, and I opened up a Mego December 1st of 92.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a really important, there's a few things that are super important in there. One, the fact that you started the foundation in 1975. I think for everybody, it's really important to know you were not Leon Cooperman from today. You were Lee Cooperman in 1975, but you had the foresight and the internal compass to say, I want to give back. Right. And I think that's, like, you don't have to have $3.6 billion and I know you don't like hearing about the numbers because they are mind-boggling, but I think it's important. You don't have to have that. You can have a lot less and give back.
I think if you have $100 million today and you're not an art collector, you have all the money you need in the world.
Yeah.
And I will pass that number. And, I don't want to be the richest guy in a cemetery. And I don't even want to reach out. I'm leaving all my money that I don't give away while I'm alive to Jodi, Wayne, and Michael, and Ann, with the grandchildren to give away and preside over it.
So what you have a saying that it's not your saying. You quote somebody who says, anyone who dies rich
dies disgraced.
Dies disgraced. And who is that? Do you remember who that is?
Andrew Carnegie.
Andrew Carnegie. A man who dies rich is a man who is disgraced. And
well, I told 1990, I guess it was, I met with Warren Buffett, maybe 2000. I'm less, this Parkinson's is affecting my thought process a little bit, but not the conclusions.
You say that, but I know your thought process. I know you disagree with me, but from my perspective, you're as much of an animal, which I fear as a partner, and rightfully so. It's good to be.
I'm slower than I used to be, but you're too kind. I'll take you as my obituary speaker.
Well,
but basically,
great.
And in 1990, I think it was, I met with Warren Buffett, and I sent him a letter where I accepted his challenge to take the Giving Pledge. I said in 1900, Andrew Carnegie said, "He who dies rich dies disgraced." In 1930, Sir Winston Churchill said, "You make a living with what you get. You make a life with what you give." Okay. And thirdly, President Kennedy in 1961 told the nation, "Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country." And fourth, I say, I'm Jewish, and they say in the Talmud, you measure man that way, he has but what he gives. Mm-hmm. And so we're into philanthropy. We've identified a couple of areas. I just found that you can't process all these requests for money.
Yeah, well, that's a really good question, is how do you, and I mean, I can't even imagine. It just must be a constant flow. How do you manage all of the people?
I mean,
we don't have a lot of people.
Well, all the people
coming
asking
in.
for you. I'm sure you have a lot of people asking for the money.
There's no shortage. I gave a lecture at FAU about a month ago, and the next day I got a letter from the president thanking me. It went very well, and by the way, would you give us $10 million to set up a fund? But, the truth of the matter is, I am getting close to the quest time. I don't want to die rich.
Yeah.
I don't want to die, but, I don't want to die rich.
Yeah. But dealing with all the inbound.
Well, I need help. And
right.
Jodi's taking all the Jewish requests under her leave.
Well, and at a time it was around January of 24, when Lee said to me with the girls, I'd like you to take over everything, the Jewish and Israeli part of the foundation. And that was a time when everything was upside down and most people were saying, what can I do? I can't, this is awful, but I can't do anything. And so for me, it felt like the greatest gift one could ever give, to be able to have the ability to make these decisions to help the Jewish world, to help Israel emergencies, but also just help sustain all of our core organizations that need to be sustained. If everything turns to an emergency, then what is there when the emergency is done? And you said, how do you handle all the requests? I think what was really helpful was sitting down with the girls across the country, sitting down by Zoom, from New Jersey to Denver to San Francisco, and coming up with kind of pillars and focusing on different areas, because that helps us when requests come in. We can't be everyone to everything to everyone. So we're able to, kind of a little bit say, that's not what we do. That's not our area. Doesn't mean it's not important, but we have our certain areas. And this kind of circles back to the question you asked before about my daughters and sort of their trajectory, being 28 and 25 years old. They're in a different universe than what we grew up in, and I'm a pretty centrist person. I've probably gone a little center right versus where I was before, which was center left. But they're more progressive, and figuring out the balance between what their progressive values are versus what is helpful for the Jewish world and what's going on in the world right now. We have a lot of conversations about it and come to agreement on what things work for all of us. And I would say Israel is a challenging thing with the way Israel has gone so ultra right with the current government. And my kids only know Netanyahu, by the way. When you think about people in their 20s, this is the only Israel there's been. And I think it'll be nice to have new leadership that might help have new perspective. But there are so many things that can be funded in Israel. And one of the things we've done is turn to the areas that are really focused on making Israel her best self, meaning Israel as a democracy, more equality for everyone living in Israel, a focus on an Israel that is welcoming to us as Reformed Jews, as opposed, we're not Orthodox, we're not ultra Orthodox. We want it to be a place that is for everyone, and that's we kind of find alignment with what things make sense to us, and they really match a lot of our work here. Courtney, it's fine. Courtney works in affordable housing, and she has a lot of knowledge and skills in that area, and turning some of what she does with her work here into how we look at investments in Israel is helpful. I mean, and we share conversations, some that she's more the lead with an organization, and some I'm more the lead, and a lot of it depends on where our deep interests are.
What motivates that philanthropy in Israel is we have a strong belief that the survival of Israel is in the interest of every Jew, and it deserves our support. They didn't start any one of these 7 wars they've been confronted with, and they basically they accuse of committing genocide. The genocide committers are basically Russia in the Ukraine and Hamas in the Gaza Strip. But we have a PR problem.
We do, but and I want to come back to the PR problem. So first, I wanted to say around the Hanukkah gifts you mentioned. So we had the same approach with our kids. We would go to Target, and I would say when they were very young and on up, you have to pick out a gift, and we're going to go and we're going to give this gift away directly. And I remember, I won't say which of my kids, my son, he cried. He didn't want to give the gift away, which is exactly, ultimately, and he's so sweet and such a wonderful young man now, and but it's such an important lesson.
You have to teach them.
Yeah, I come back to this because again, it's really for everybody to learn. Okay, how can we help teach our kids philanthropy? And to your point about whether it's pillars for the organization or it's your own giving. And so my wife and I, Jillian and I, were part of the Angelica Berry and a program for emerging philanthropists about, maybe 15 or 20 years ago.
Russell Berry's former wife.
What's that? Yeah, exactly. Russell Berry's.
I worked on his IPO many years ago.
Really? Oh, that's interesting. So Angelica's just wonderful. She's been, and the Berry Foundation have been absolute pillars of northern New Jersey, and she funded a program for emerging philanthropists 15 or so years ago after there was a Berry Fellowship program, which really was an intensive program in training people. But almost everybody in our cohort of emerging philanthropists have become real leaders in our community. But what one of the programs was focused on was prioritization and maximizing impact, because we're all called, I think a lot of us can identify with getting phone calls. Oh, can you give to this or can you give to that? Your friend's being honored for this. And so we were trained, okay, come up with your top 3 priorities, and then you should have a bucket that might be for smaller gifts to help, because you want to help your friend or whatever.
Well, our youngest daughter asked once, you say yes to everybody. So I said, money's like manure. You got to spread it around.
Yeah.
So the things that we do major work with were things that we're involved in personally. So I was on the board of St. Barnabas Hospital. Mm-hmm. I gave them $125 million and they voluntarily changed the name. I never thought about that being a name change or type of gift.
This is the Cooperman Barnabas Hospital.
Right.
It's a beautiful hospital.
He did a great job. And I would say that what their view was, if you put your name on it, it may motivate other people in the community to step up. And Anthony Melchiori and his wife made a fabulous gift of $50-odd million to the hospital, and they basically said that they did it because of me.
So I couldn't agree more. So I always am, like to be, I think it's probably why we get along so well is I think I'm pretty low key about everything I do. And I really like to keep my head down and just keep going. But, there are points where it really is useful and is so inspiring, and sharing about the students, 1,000 students, you've changed their life, and think about how the ripple effect over time, it truly is tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of lives that you've changed just from that one program. And then
the sad thing is, you're not making a spit in the ocean compared to what has to be done. We're moving in the right direction. I think the only solution to income disparity is education. Mm-hmm. If you think about it, you got to provide them with an education which gives them the motivation and the ability to succeed.
Yeah, I totally agree. And this goes back to early childhood education, early childhood development. And then on the, and I don't mean to be jumping around, although I like to jump around, but the giving towards Israel with children, it's so useful. I have to imagine to have those more difficult conversations, to find the common grounds. I mean, I think it's a wonderful thing.
Right. I mean, I think that's one of the things that is really special, that we don't avoid the hard conversations. We actually have the hard conversations and listen to each other and learn from each other. And I'll share, I mean, we just were honored by, Birthright New Jersey, and Birthright is something that's, I think is one of the most important core Jewish organizations. The number of kids that they are able to get to Israel, which does change everything, is tremendous. My kids each had very different experiences with Birthright. When Courtney went, it was not her vision of her experience in Israel, because it didn't focus on all of the different dynamics enough. And so she came home and it was a little bit critical, but she shared that directly with the Birthright Foundation, and they have since then their education has evolved in a really big way. My younger daughter, when she did Birthright Excel, and she had an 11-week experience on the ground as an intern in Israel, and then came back and was able to go again the next year as a Birthright bus leader for Chabad at Duke, and really deeply impactful. But everybody can learn. I mean, even the best of organizations need to listen and grow and change with the times. And I think that's one thing I've seen happening with Birthright, just as an example.
Yeah, and I was there when you were honored, and I mean, it was an honor to be there to see the massive gift that you gave, and Lee, to your point, inspired multiples of that to be funded because of you. Well, I mean,
we feel very fortunate to be in a position to do what we're doing. It wasn't always that way. My father came to America at the age of 12 from Warsaw, Poland, as a plumber's apprentice. That's before plumbers were brain surgeons. And I went to public school in the Bronx, high school in the Bronx, college in the Bronx. I followed the advice of Harley Screwley. I went west. So I went to Hunter College in the West Bronx. I grew up in the southeast Bronx, which is basically Fort Apache, tough neighborhood. And I broke out. And I was.
Why? I know that there was a period that you considered becoming a dentist. Is that right?
Well, like every Jewish young, you want to be a professional. And if you completed your major and minor in 3 years, they allowed you to count your first year of dental or medical school towards your fourth year of college and get a separate degree. So the summer of 1963, I went to the University of Pennsylvania undergraduate school, and I took physical chemistry, which finished up my major. And I enrolled in August of 1963 in the University of Pennsylvania School of Dentistry. And after about 8 days, people laugh about that, I started to wonder if I was committing myself to go down a path that I was really committed to. And I didn't know. And so I screwed up the courage to go to the dean of the dental school, who was very nasty. He said, Lee, you deprived the 101st applicant of a dental education. I wasn't smart enough to realize after 8 days he can get somebody off the wait list and bring him in. I drilled my initials LC into $1,200 worth of equipment, which was rendered useless. The only guy that appreciated my suffering was Glenn T. Nygren, who was the dean of admissions at Hunter. He had to approve my matriculating back into school. I remember I went to visit him in his office. He said, a very courageous decision. Of course, you can come back. When I went back, I had all electives available. The major minor was completed. I took 10 courses in economics, got 10 A's. I never looked back. I found what interested me. And I've developed a view that the only way to be successful in life is to do what you love and love what you do. So I got paid a lot of money for doing what I love.
And in there, I think there's a very important lesson that I've learned from you, which is your instincts, your gut, which I think we've been trained not to trust a lot. But I think the most successful people like yourself, who I know, have this ability to look and feel and know what's right. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think the only way to be successful is to do what you love and love what you do. And I attribute my success to hard work, luck, and intuition. Hard work and luck is easy to understand. They're simple concepts. If you don't think luck plays a role in your success, then you're crazy. You're arrogant. Because all of us require a certain amount of luck. But intuition is difficult. So I give 2 examples of intuition. One example was my accepting of the job of Goldman Sachs. I'm a very anal guy. I usually do what I'm supposed to do on time. We were here a half hour early, right?
Yes, you were.
For the recording session. So basically, I passed the deadline, and Bob Danforth, who was the guy who made me the offer, he was a partner of Goldman Sachs, said, Lee, we haven't heard from you. What can we say? I said, Bob, let me be honest with you, I'm dead broke. I have a 6-month-old kid to support, and I have 4 offers for more money, but I liked everybody I met at Goldman Sachs. And Goldman Sachs was not a powerhouse back then. They earned $15 billion today, and they were earning $5 million, $50 million maybe back then. So I said, do you think I could earn $100,000 a year in 5 years? The offer was for about $13,000. So, I think it was I earned 25,000 in 5 years, which is doubling in 5 years is 15% compound. And he said, if you work hard to keep your nose clean, I think you can do it. Well, in the fifth year, I earned $180,000. In the ninth year, I became a partner in the firm and never looked back. So that was intuition. I could have gone to work at a firm that wanted to pay me more money, but I liked the people that I met at Goldman. The second example of intuition was
When you told Wayne to marry me?
well, I wasn't smart enough to tell him that. Whether Toby was smarter than I was. At the wedding, Toby basically said that, Wayne brought into Jodi, into our family, he was exceeding our expectations. The second example of intuition.
Would it be leaving Goldman Sachs?
No. Well, I basically had a sense back then that Goldman Sachs ought to be in the asset management business, and they didn't want to do it because Goldman's view was brokers should do brokerage and money managers money manage. Don't compete with your customer.
Yeah.
I said, wake up and smell the roses. Basically, that it's conventional.
So that's kind of similar to the kind of break between Larry Fink and Steve Schwarzman, between Blackstone and BlackRock. I think Fink wanted he viewed an aggregate total AUM, and Schwartzman wanted to be precise with private equity.
It's true.
I just want to comment,
Yeah.
if you don't mind. Just when I think about you going back to the beginning, when I think about how I approach philanthropy, it's also intuition and relationships. There's the numbers piece, but it's also about who the people are and the sense of working with them. Like, I'm lucky I don't have to make all the investment decisions, but there's a lot of in the relationship and the conversations with people. It helps. That really helps make decisions. It's not just about the balance sheet and their budget.
Yeah.
But
I think that's such an important point because it really is the family business of philanthropy, which is exciting and difficult and challenging and requires, to your point, those relationships. And it's years of work, I imagine, of birthright. It's 15 years to develop that relationship where you can have, where you can have confidence in the organization. Also, I think it's important to point out, which I just see over and over with the most, I would say, successful people, is the willingness to speak up. And so you mentioned your daughters, or one of your daughters speaking up and saying, this is not what I envisioned. And I just can't recommend it enough, is we all need to be our strongest advocates, whether it's our Jewish organizations. And we have a PR problem. We'll come back to the PR problem that we have. We have a PR problem in part because I'd love to debate this if you disagree, but in part because I think if you get 3 Jews in a room, we're going to have 4 different opinions, and it could be much more than that. And so we're not historically well organized to voice our opinion. And the counter opinion is extremely well organized, extremely well funded, and focused in creating a narrative that's very negative for us.
Yeah, and it's a huge challenge because we have within our whole Jewish population, there are Jews that are anti-Zionist, and that doesn't help the situation when you have all the other people who are against us, and within we just but we respect, as Jews, we respect individuality. So we don't expect people to be all falling into doing the same exact thing.
Were you going to say something, Lee?
I was saying that I was on TV a while ago, and I basically said that if you're an anti-Semite, that means you're ignorant. And the only way you deal with ignorant people is you got to educate them, because there's no basis for anti-Semitism. I don't think. We didn't start any war. We have the right to defend ourselves. I think we're in the process of seeing very bad press coming out with the president throwing Netanyahu under the bus. It was predictable.
Yeah, I would say that. The challenge is that it's so ingrained in our society 20 years in now and it is in the education system, and not just in the college education system, but in the high school and even in the grade schools. And so I think a number of us saw this train.
It started 30 years ago. My sister-in-law worked in producing films for fighting anti-Semitism, and she said it was about 25 years ago when she said what's going on at Columbia is not okay. And most people just kind of said, it's just a few people on some college campuses. But that was actually the beginning of the long game, that we can't fight that in a day or a year. I mean, for me, I think focusing on educating our Jewish people about being Jewish, not just to fight anti-Semitism, but to really understand what it means to be Jewish and their identity, because then you know what you're standing up for, rather than standing up just because you're going to fight anti-Semitism. And we have to really go deep in that.
Yeah, and so that's the Dan Senor approach of we need to strengthen our Jewish identity, and I love that, and I also love that it's not even the fighting so much as the educating, I think, as you were saying, Lee, because it is lack of information. And I think this will tie us to, nearing the end, because I know you have a busy schedule. I'm super grateful for you to be here, was Israel. And we overlapped in Israel in November. We didn't see each other, but I know you were there on a very important trip. Was that the first time post-October 7th?
It was. Was supposed to be a different time, April of 24, but the day I was leaving on my women's mission was the first Iran bombing.
I knew this from Wayne.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten until you just said that there was a lot of consternation. There's always consternation.
Well, I got lucky when I went November. It was quiet.
It was
the hostages were released and it was calm.
I thought it was the most unbelievable experience, in that we were in Tel Aviv, and it was the weekend, and it was like 80 degrees and sunny, and the boardwalk was packed, and it was like heaven on earth.
Yeah.
And I had been there immediately after October 7th, and so your experience you went down south?
I went all over.
Yeah.
I had three separate parts. The last 2 days sort of dug into the whole October 7th experience, but I was on a mission with the Youth Renewal Fund, that is one of the biggest funders of the DARCA school network. So that's what got me there. That was 4 days, and we were in Ashkelon and like right on the border, but at their schools. We were in Lod. I was not in like the wealthy places. I was in the periphery, seeing the incredible power of what a good education. When teachers believe in students and a school believes that students can do well, very much like what we've funded here, but that's what Youth Renewal Fund is funding in Israel. But I was also all over the country. I was at the border of Lebanon with JNF. I was up there looking at a school program where kids are working in an agricultural school, left their families, and we talked to the kids about what they're doing. They want to give back to their country. They want to be right in the middle of what the country needs. So I was all over the country, and
that's incredible. We were up in the north as well.
But now, I keep thinking about where I was, because literally Lebanon was right behind us, and it was calm, but it's not now.
No, it's it's a constantly moving and dynamic situation.
When you look at the percentage of the population involved in the military, it's hard to understand how the economy is not falling apart.
Well, and actually, if you look at the stock market, I don't know how closely you follow. The stock market's been incredibly strong, and I think it speaks to, and I think Elon Musk said it, maybe to come around to where we began is, he said there's something like there isn't a country that punches more above its weight from an innovation standpoint than Israel. It's pretty remarkable. And the North is extremely important. I don't think I appreciated, if you don't have those groups in the North, all of a sudden Israel just shrinks, and all of a sudden it's Haifa, Tel Aviv, Jerusalem. And that's like, northern New Jersey. We wouldn't even make it to Livingston or Short Hills. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess I think what I hear is hope. What I hear from you is we have to keep working, and we have to focus on those areas. And I love the kind of symmetry between what you do here and what you do in Israel, and that makes a lot of sense to me. And being very thoughtful about
Well, I
impact.
credit Jodi and her kids, my grandkids, with learning more about the organizations we support. And Ira Kaufman,
Oh, Ivan.
Ivan, you went to visit Haish.
Oh, yeah. I visited Aish, which we're help fund a building for a girls' school, and Aish is not really in my wheelhouse as a Reformed Jew, although my brother is very involved with Aish. And to be in this building and seeing girls from all over the country who are going and studying and learning and want to go deeper in their Judaism, it's an amazing thing to support.
Well, and what a beautiful thing to have the diversity within the family of like, okay, we like doing this and we like doing this.
Right.
And I just think the number one takeaway, which I hope everyone thinks about, is we all can do this. In fact, I think it's our obligation to do this in whatever capacity we can.
I agree. And if one person's $25 gift is another person's $250 gift, another person's $2,500, that's whatever you can do. And we're just very lucky to have the ability to give, have big impact, but it takes everybody chipping in together.
It's a funny thing because for the last 2 years of my chair position, I have only once spoken about money because I chaired financial resource and development, and I felt that was when I talk about money. I think it's the inspiration that each of us brings, that you all bring. I think about the story I heard at the Birthright event where the rabbi came up and said that, a group of children or one child said, I raised this $300, give it to the woman who comes in and talks about food insecurity, which was you, Jodi.
Yes.
And it wasn't about any of the money. It was just the inspiration that you bring to kids, that you bring to the whole world. It's remarkable what you're doing. And I'm so grateful that you came here and you joined to talk about this. I know everybody draws so much strength from the work that you both do. Lee, from your career, I know every day people come up to me and say, they ask questions. You work with Lee.
I'm
Tell me
going
about
through
Lee.
the quest list now, and I'm hooking it to a big investment I have. If the investment materializes, I'll give you the money now. You'll have to wait 5 years. If I lose money in the investment, I have less to give away. I want to make money for two reasons. I want to have more money to give away. My only envy of Warren Buffett is he has more zeros after his name, but nobody can have a better family than I have. And I told Warren when I gave him the money that, I'm Jewish, and they say in the Talmud, you measure man up by half the way he gives. And the difference between you and I is I'm not going to give my money to Bill Gates to give away. I'm going to give my money to my family to give away, to subsidize those organizations that have done a good job for us.
And I know, because I know you, and I think most people know you're an emotional person, and it's a beautiful thing. And I thank you because you, at the same time, I've seen you emotional when the markets weren't doing well, or maybe I wasn't doing well for you, or I was part of a group not doing well, and that emotion, I think, also is what inspires, and it lifts people up, and it says, I can be a version of Lee Cooperman, and I can be great at whatever it is that I'm doing, whether it's philanthropy, whether it's business, whether it's the law, whether it's being a dentist. And so I can't thank you enough, Lee. I can't thank you for your friendship, for your guidance. You've
I thank you for your performance.
What's that?
I thank you for your performance.
Well, I know it's my job every day. It's our team's job to deliver for you. And I know that when I'm doing that, you're giving that money away and helping lift other people, which actually is a huge inspiration for us to deliver for you. And so, I mean, it makes me emotional because you've literally changed my life. And I just can't thank you. I'll never be able to thank you enough for what you've done. And we'll keep doing what we can to deliver for you. And I'm hopeful, I'm optimistic, but I can never thank you for what you've done for me. So thank you. Thank you, Jodi.
Thank you for having me in conversation together.
It's wonderful. It's great.